Hi there, Russell Stratton, President and Leadership Champion with Blue Gem Learning. I work with organisations just like yours to help managers improve staff engagement and increase individual and team performance. At our upcoming Lunch and Learn on July 15th, we're going to be talking about how we can use individual values to be able to drive motivation and to improve team performance, and also how we can use values to resolve conflicts that may come up in our team. So I thought that I would have a look at a number of the values that I think were important, particularly under the category of team, as a lot of the work that I do, as I just said, is with leaders who are leading teams of people in various types of organizations. So I picked out three values that I thought were particularly important to me, resonated with me in my time as an operational manager and frontline leader, that were maybe useful to you. So the first I'm going to talk about in this vlog, and then we'll move on to values 2 and 3 in later editions. So the first one I wanted to talk about was the value of transparency, that ability to be able to give a clear and honest picture of what is going on regarding the situation in our organization at a particular point in time, that helps us to build trust with our employees and co-workers, and trust being one of the other values that I want to talk about another time. So transparency, and why did I see that this was particularly important? Well, it takes me back to a story that my late father told me many years ago when I was growing up, from his time when he was in London at the beginning part of World War II, before he joined the British Army, at a time when he was part of the Home Guard. Now, those of you that are not familiar with the Home Guard, it was a kind of militia that was called up during wartime as a supplementary force that could assist the regular army in the defense of the United Kingdom when it was under threat of invasion from Nazi Germany. So my father was there in West London at the time. He was about 17 years old, and was talked about a particular day when they had recently formed their Home Guard platoon and were being briefed by an officer who had come down from headquarters on what their role was going to be. So to paraphrase the exchange, is there they were sort of lined up, a mixture of young men in their sort of late teens and older men in their sort of late 40s, early 50s, who perhaps had served in the army in World War I or the Boer War, and were being sort of pressed into service. And the officer there was talking to them about how they were the first line of defense in defending London from German invasion, particularly as they was termed, as my father recalls it, being told that highly trained Nazi paratroopers who were trained killers, armed to the teeth with machine guns, would be landing by parachute in the fields around Ealing in West London, and that it was his job and his colleagues' job to stop them, basically, and to hold them up until the regular army could come and support. And all of this sounded fine, great morale boosting sort of speech, even somewhat Churchillian perhaps, except for the reality that my dad said he stood there at the time being told about these highly trained Nazi paratroopers who were coming to attack his city. And he was holding a broom handle with a bread knife strapped to the top. Because at that time, the Home Guard only had one rifle for every 10 men. That rifle only had 5 rounds of ammunition. So the other men in the platoon basically had a collection of garden implements, and as my father had, a broom handle with a bread knife strapped to the top. And he said he always found this was quite sort of bizarre, that he and his colleagues were expected to stop a German invasion with a broom handle with a bread knife on top. He said, I didn't expect I was going to do very well against some highly trained Nazi paratrooper armed to the teeth with a machine gun. And of course, the problem there about the transparency is that there was a disconnect between what they were being told that their role was and the reality on the ground. And that, as he realized, and the experienced members who'd fought in previous wars understood, that they really were not going to be able to do very much at all to stop the German paratroopers if they did land. And that the idea of the platoon leader coming from headquarters to try and boost their morale with a lot of sort of jingoism was backfiring, because they were sort of thinking, who is this guy? He doesn't even know what he's talking about. This is foolish. We're not going to be able to stop German paratroopers with a broom handle. Now, that was just one example that got me thought about the importance sometimes of, if with the best of intentions, trying to boost people's morale, trying to give them a positive picture, trying to tell them how important they are. But losing sight of that people are actually pretty sensible and understand what the reality is. And that we're probably better off, if we want to build trust with our employees, by giving them painting the picture really of the reality for them, so they can see what's actually going on, and giving them as much information as we can about the actual reality, so that they can then be better prepared, rather than giving them this false sense of bravado. Okay, well, it was a story I've remembered for over 40 years that my father had told me, and illustrated for me the need to be able to get transparency with our people, and not to give them false hope. So if you're interested in this and you'd like to hear more about values and the stories that we can tell about values to make them come alive for people, then why not join us at our upcoming Lunch and Learn on July 15th, okay, when we're going to be discussing how we can use values to motivate our employees. Tickets available if you click on the link below. COVID-19 special of $19. So for that price, why not invite a co-worker or even your boss to come with you? And we'll see you on the other side.